I think that's pretty close. It sounds a lot like what happened when I had my conversation with the taxpayer advocate a few years ago. I had Larken's 3 questions, and she had called me and was allegedly trying to respond to them, and she said something about wanting. She made the assertion that I was trying to change the law. And I'm like, no, I'm not trying to change the law. I'm trying to get an answer from you regarding these questions about the law, which was basically what the conversation was kind of going as. And eventually she was, fuming and, kind of, well, that's just the way it is. And, it's just the way it is. You're liable for the tax and that's all. Because that's just the way it is.
And that's a perfect example, because if the first question is this the part of the law I'm supposed to be looking at to determine what I owe? That's paraphrasing it. And it doesn't even matter if somebody understands the issue or knows anything about it. The question is this where I'm supposed to be looking? And here are some citations that seem to say it is. Is this where I'm supposed to be looking? Now, how can a rational being not want to either say yes or no? Or at least, I'm not sure, let me go look it up. But it's, a classic example of they want the question to go away. A rational person would say, let me find out, because either you're supposed to or you're not. It has to be one or the other. And if I don't know it offhand, let me go find out. But they're trained, don't answer these questions, don't talk about the law, because then things will get really inconvenient. Find some way to get out of the question. And with something as simple as, am I looking in the right place to determine what I owe? How can they make that into, you're trying to change the law, or you're a tax protester, or
right.
No, you idiot. I'm asking, is this where I'm supposed to look to do this? By your stupid rules, in your stupid rule books that I'm opening in front of you, is this where I'm supposed to be? And the fact that even something as simple and direct as that, freaks them out. It demonstrates how just psychologically, just the lunacy involved with what they do, and the lengths they'll go to avoid having to act like a rational human being. If you went to your mechanic and said, is this where I'm supposed to put the oil in? He might laugh and say, no, you miss, it's over there. Or he might say, yeah, that's right. He's not going to say, it's horrible for you to ask such a thing. Go away. It's just nobody else in any walk of life does that. Just people in government who don't want to face the question.
Yeah. You're not going to say, you're trying to re-engineer the car.
Yeah.
Right, you're trying to change the car, aren't you? I want to know where to put the oil.
I kind of do that with computer noobs, though. Usually it ends up, well, let me Google that for you.
But that's good nature. This is something where, you need to point, I was talking to someone about this the other day, how when I was doing a consult, and, and it had come up, well, what do you do if they just don't want to answer? And I said, if they don't want to, get into these things. And I said, then you need to bring them back down to earth, and you need to let them know, excuse me, sir, this may be your job, okay? This is my life, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You are screwing around with me. This is my life. This is, I take this a little more serious. Now, if this is not something that's very serious for you, then I suggest you just, then vacate or throw this out and move on to something that you're more serious about. And sometimes that works. It does, not always. Some of them are they're so far removed from the reality of the situation that I've had them tell me that there's no violence involved, but we're not making any threats. And I'm sitting there in front of the computer, and I've got, and I'm looking at a scanned copy of the letter, which if you've gotten something like, I know Larken, I know you've gotten this threats, but and I said, well, let me ask you this. I'm looking at your letter right now, and you're saying right here, we will seize property, i.e. bank accounts, car. You're telling me that's not a threat? No, that is not. So you're telling me that if I say it to you right now on the phone, I'm going to seize your property, you wouldn't take that as a threat?
Right. It is a threat.
We're not threatening anybody. Okay, so all right. So you don't really mean that you're going to take his property? Well, if he, well, so you're still threatening him? Well, sir, there's no threat of violence. They are so far removed from that, and I can't prove this. Maybe Larken, you have a little more because you mentioned about the training. Do you believe that there's evidence or the circumstantial evidence to show that they are trained, or it's the nature of the job to remove them from the violence directly?
Well, I think that first of all, IRS agents are trained to say the IRS is going to do this, and they talk in third person about what they're part of, to pretend that they're not responsible. It's utterly insane.
Yeah.
It's like the judge talking about the court has decided. There's something called a court that for some reason what it decides comes out of this guy's mouth. But apparently he's not it. There's this thing called the court that's guilty of doing this. And IRS agents are trained to say the IRS will seize you and the IRS will do this and the IRS has determined. That's one of my favorite, is this vague entity made some determination. No human being actually did, because if you ask them, well, who made that decision, they have no idea. The IRS, this magical entity that nobody's ever seen, it just has a bunch of obnoxious bureaucrats in its offices that speak for it. But I think there's also a level of just the authoritarian indoctrination that makes these people not take any responsibility for what they're actually doing. Just like the Nazis and all their happy little bureaucrats murdering people. They just, I'm just doing what I'm told. It doesn't count as violence because I'm not doing it. I'm just doing what somebody else told me to do on behalf of authority. And they really can't perceive that as what it is, which is just sad. But they really don't.
It's a psychological disassociation.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm glad you said that, because one of the things I read about in the book, and this is something that I have personal firsthand experience with, that the bigger disassociation or boogeyman is the government. Like you mentioned the IRS, it's the IRS. And I've gone through this where I've asked them on the phone, and I'll ask them, what is meant by we? Well, that's the Franchise Tax Board. Okay. But can you tell me specifically who in particular made this determination? I've had them admit to me, Larken, point blank, and I asked them, there's a reason why I'm asking certain questions. I'm not just a total schmuck from Long Island. There's usually a purpose. There's a goal. And I'll ask them, did you make this assessment? And they'll say, yes. Are you the only one responsible for it? Yes. Okay, you're the one. They will then, when you start asking questions, will say, and I've had this guy Scott for the Minnesota Department of Revenue. I said, I don't know why you're asking me evidentiary questions. I'm not the one who did the assessment. Yeah, you are. you just said so. I didn't say that. Yes, you did. I'm recording you on the computer. I can play it back.
Right.
I mean, please. The bigger one is the more general one that they use for disassociation is government, and that's something that everybody uses. And I've asked them point blank, about the government. I said, are you the government? No, I work for the government. Well, what is it you work for? Tell me exactly, factually, what it is you claim. They can't tell you.
Yeah, they've never thought about
They
it.
can't grasp the fact that, the government's just people.
Yeah.
Right. Or they actually...
Is that
in that group, right?
Right. They actually hallucinate that it's something more than people, because everybody in the entire system, from the quote-unquote lawmakers down to the stupid bureaucrats, will deny that they're responsible for what happens. So they actually imagine that there's something else there that isn't just the people, because if those people just acting on their own were doing that, everyone would recognize them as nasty criminals and would shoot at them and stuff. Right. So they all imagine something else.
We have to go to a break. I want to stay on that. My name is Marc Stevens, and joining Kurt Tischer and I today is, of course,